The morning after the referendum in 2016, I stood on College Green and I said, this is a victory for the little people. And most of the media there looked on, utterly bemused, not having a clue what I was on about. But of course, Brexit, the election of Trump, it was all about the fact that we're run and governed by people, whether they work in the civil service, giant businesses, big banks, politics, much of the media. They're all the same people. They don't understand the conversations that we have every day. And of course, when it comes to money, they're all in it for themselves. They get the bailouts, you go bust. Well, it's called populism. That's what they call it. It's meant to be a derogatory term, but that's what it is. And over the course of this last week, we've seen a new kind of populism, an economic populism. How's it happen? Well, for those that haven't followed the story, there's a website called Wall Street Bets, and it's people, private investors, who want to trade the stock market. Basically gambling on shares, but doing it because they want to get on, they want to do better. And they have a particular distrust and loathing of the Wall Street billionaires. And isn't this interesting? 660 billionaires in the USA. And in 2020, their net worth went up by average 40% each. So in a pandemic, with lockdowns, their wealth went up 40%, when for ordinary people, for many ordinary people, life is pretty tough and unemployment looms. So this crowd that trade through Wall Street Bets, one thing they can't stand are short sellers. People who sell shares they haven't got, then put out negative media stories about how the firm's going bust in the hope of buying shares back when they've come down. And Wall Street Bets and that crowd, they view short sellers as vultures, as people who benefit themselves and cause great harm to many other people. There is some truth, not wholly, but there is some truth in what they believe. Anyway, a firm called GameStop, think of it in UK terms as rather like Blockbusters. It's a store, physical bricks and mortar store where you go and, you can hire or buy computer games, that kind of thing. It's a company that's been in the doldrums, and it's got some massive short positions on it. Some of the biggest Wall Street traders have sold it, are telling everybody that it's going to go bankrupt in the hope of making money. Well, the traders who go through Wall Street Bets decided actually it wasn't that bad a company. They started buying this share and the price started going up and up and up. And before you knew it, millions of people were looking at this website, including a lot of people from the United Kingdom. And it starts off the year at about 20 bucks a share, and it goes up and up and up. And yesterday, it traded up at about $480 a share. So it's a meteoric rise. And some of the big Wall Street funds are now losing billions on this stock and on other stocks. Now, the value of the stock is worth far more than the company's worth, far more than forward earnings are worth. But hey, if people go into something with their eyes open, they're prepared to risk their money, that is entirely up to them. Then, in the middle of yesterday afternoon, something happened that I think was completely and utterly outrageous. All the big stockbrokers, firms that do business, for ordinary individuals who might want to put on 100 quid or 1,000 quid or whatever it is, nearly all the platforms simultaneously said to their customers, we will take no more buy orders from you on these stocks, only sell orders. So guess what happened? Well, the price of the share went from about 350 to 120 very, very quickly. It collapsed. Now, this, of course, would have brought great joy to many of the big Wall Street shorts, but a great deal of pain to many of the private investors who'd got into this over the course of the last week. It was openly rigging the market in favour of the big guys, in favour of the establishment, and against the little people. It was outrageous. And they are all in bed together. Give you an example. Janet Yellen, very well known US financier, ran the Fed for years. She's Joe Biden's new secretary for the Treasury, right? She's earned $815,000 from the very same hedge fund that's deeply involved on the short side with GameStop. She's earned another $7 million over the last few years speaking to the Wall Street giants. Now, we know the White House were consulted. We don't know what advice she gave. We don't know what made the brokers stop taking buy orders. Ironically, one of them is called Robin Hood. But Robin Hood doesn't just deal for the little people. Robin Hood, of course, also deals for the really big guys. I can't think, after yesterday, of a more inappropriately named company. So whether you're interested in financial markets or not, this story is a story about power. It's a story about the establishment. It's a story about how every time it is the ordinary folk that get crushed by these people. And that's why we voted Brexit. And it's why in 2016, Trump got elected and got another 75 million votes in November. And now this populist action has moved from voting to what people do on the markets. Ultimately, they cannot stop people from buying these shares if they want to. They can suspend it for a bit. Whether that was legal, I don't know. It'll be the result of lawsuits. And even though the price is higher than it should be, I've got to tell you, I'm with the ordinary traders. I'm with the ordinary people. It's about time Wall Street got a bloody nose. After all, back in 2008-9, the last big financial crash, when many lost their jobs, what happened to most of the big Wall Street firms and banks? They all got bailed out with taxpayers' money. So it's a story to keep on top of. It's a story to keep ahead of. It's a story, frankly, about just how corrupt the whole system is. And I was amazed yesterday. There's a very left-wing congressman, Democrat, AOC, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, and she's way out, sort of, Bernie Sanders, Black Lives Matter, Antifa. And even she thought what happened yesterday was outrageous and is calling for a congressional inquiry. Maybe the establishment this time have bitten off more than they can chew, because they haven't just got the Trumpites screaming, they've got the Trumpites now linked up with those on the left, both with common cause, about the way that big money, big banks, big politics work together in their favour and against ordinary folk. This story, whether you picked it up or not, this is going to be a very big story as this year goes on.
We will make America great again.